technical as me today.
Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to QuickBooks Labs podcast, your number one UK podcast for QuickBooks. Well, that's because we're the only QuickBooks podcast out there, so we get that title as it goes. We're going to be using this time to record every single month to talk about tips, tricks, shortcuts to streamline your QuickBooks experience. One of your hosts, Aaron Patrick, the QuickBooks chap on YouTube, and with me is my panel of experts. We're going to go around the room and start with Simon. Simon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Simon Woodhams. I am the Software Advisory Manager at Wilkinson Smith.
Love that. Hashtag Amy, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Amy Hancock, aka hashtag Audit Amy, auditor and accountant for Hancock and Hastings.
And Charlie, sell out to Apron. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I need someone else to give me a free. I need a free T-shirt from anybody, and I'll wear it. I am Charlie Khan. I am a chartered accountant based in West London. Yeah, that's who I am.
Love that. Love
I'll be
that.
wearing my sweatshirt.
We love it. We love it. We love the representation. We love it here. Okay, we got a cracker for you today. We're going to talk about some really positive updates that we are grateful to see, and are definitely going to help streamline your services and solutions for your clients and for if you're using QuickBooks yourself. And also, we're going to talk about some other updates that happen over in the US for QuickBooks Advanced, and then we're going to talk about some letting you know about some very important changes that are coming up, and we will figure out what we do and don't talk about it then. First of all, apologies for, I feel like we've missed a month somehow. You know, it feels like we had that live one, didn't we? Directly from the show. It was amazing. But yeah, apologies for being a little bit late.
Season, isn't it? We've been gallivanting around the UK.
We have. Trying to find a date that all four of us could get to was very, very tricky, but Lizzie was not going to let it go, so she was insistent we were going to go live. So a big thanks to producer Lizzie. It was her birthday as well, so happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lizzie.
Kirsty says, hello, everyone. If you've got any chats and you want to put any questions in, make sure you use the chat box as we go and keep us honest. So let's not waste around. We've got so much to go through. Let's start with the one and only, what do you call it? Update that we've had. I am stalling because I'm trying to figure out the right button to bring it in. There we are. Right. Okay. So update number one to chew over. This is all going to be basically updates that I think, especially this first one, potentially one of the best updates we've ever had. So if you go into your sales option now and go to customers, you'll notice we now have a brand new area within a customer called recurring transactions. Now, this may be something that you long-term listeners of the show notice we've spoke about a lot, that we've seen in America for a long time. Just to clarify why this is so important, recurring transactions used to be only accessible via kind of the list here, and we'll go to recurring transactions. And they did add this new filter button for us, we all got excited about a few months back. And basically you would have to use this list to go through. But if you have a massive list like I did in my practice, or still do, it was becoming a little bit unwielding. And the fact the search filter doesn't actually search by customers and all that sort of stuff made it quite tricky to utilize. But now that is no more. So if you go to sales, you go to customers, you jump into a customer, you can now jump into the recurring area, and from there you can make any adjustments to those recurring transactions. When, if like me, you connect your recurring transactions directly to GoCardless, and literally those recurring transactions are collecting money from a client's bank account, there's something so satisfying about having that little comfort blanket of any customer you want to look at, see what their recurring transactions are, and actually feel like you're on top of them going forward. So that's update number 1. What's everyone thought about it? Go around the room. Simon, do you want to go first?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. We've been banging on about it for long enough, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think it should be easier for everyone, right?
Yeah.
If it's regarding, I love it.
Yeah, brilliant. Charlie, any update for anything you want to add to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine that it's there. I've got to be honest, I'm not overly excited by it. I mean, it's just basically filtering what's in the other recurring. I mean, if you've got hundreds of them as you do, then to have it directly within the customer is useful. I agree. So for people who've got lots and lots and lots of recurring transactions, I absolutely see value in this. If you've only got 10 or 20 of them, probably not going to notice much difference.
Makes sense. Amy?
I don't personally use it. I use for my firm, I use an external provider, but I can see for many other accountants and bookkeepers that are using QuickBooks recurring, it's going to be a lot easier to see everything. So yes, a plus from me.
Yeah, I just think it's perfect. Like they nailed it first time. We now soon we're in a customer, we start to get a lot more options in here, and a lot of these updates I'm talking about today are about the fact that we have updates to this area, and it's really starting to give it that bit of kind of almost like CRM-ness to it, like giving you an opportunity to, when you're in a customer, to start adding notes and things like that we're going to talk about. So yeah, the fact that you're in a customer, you can see their recurring transactions. Perfect in my eyes. It's interesting it's not in the suppliers one, but I don't see that as a big deal, right? I don't see that needs to be there. But it's interesting that they've chosen to put it only into the customers area. And that was a choice they made from there. Yes, Kirsty, when is that coming? I have a charity with hundreds per month. Can't see it in the customer field. Frustrating for me, it's on I think 50% of my client base, apart from Boffix itself, which is very annoying that it's not falling into there. I did cheekily say to him when I was begging them to bring this feature in, because it's been in US for such a long time, I was like, look, if you need to, just stick it in the QuickBooks Advanced version as well. Give it as that could be a reason people actually upgrade to Advanced, because it's only going to be businesses with lots and lots of recurring transactions is going to be important to, right? But thankfully, it looks like it's in all the versions of QuickBooks, so that's good to see. Well, I say all the versions. You can only recurring. Is it Essentials Plus? Is it?
Yeah.
Essentials and above.
Yeah.
That brings it up, doesn't it? Cool. All right, let's crack on then with what was so Kirsty. Yeah, you should find that it will be updated for you soon. Note section over here has had a bit of a glow up. I don't know if it's me, maybe I missed this one, but it had a little new button appearing over it not so long ago. And now you have the opportunity to go in and add these extra bits and notes and add some titles and all that sort of stuff. Post it. Once it's added there, you can then star and favorite the same ones as well. Curiously, though, there's still the add note section above here where you can also add notes there, and they seem to be independent of one another. And I know if you use any third-party solutions, when they kind of use their API links and all that sort of stuff, it's this note section that will be connected to both solutions and push through and everything else. So it's a new notes section. Again, it does kind of feel like they're trying to CRM the customer area, so it's not a bad thing. Just slightly confusing from a training point of view, from a talking to your clients point of view, when to use this one and when to use that one potentially. But again, what's everyone's opinion? Should we start from the bottom this time? Amy, you go first.
So I have clients that use that notes section for debt collecting.
This topic,
I phoned this person, I phoned this person, but there was a restriction.
That's right.
On it. So actually having, as long as there's no restriction on how many notes you can create in the notes section, I think it's really good because it has that separation and it's not sitting right at the top. I rung so-and-so on the 4th of April, 2023. It's separate. So I still have the new button on a few of mine. So it still says notes new. So it stands out to a lot of my clients. So yeah, definitely a plus. I can't see the number restriction though on the top one.
No, there is definitely a restriction in there. I've seen it before where you can only get so. I know from an API point of view, and maybe the API that restricts it, but I think that's where it kind of comes in. It seems like on here as well, you can add comments to those notes as well. So, I phoned so-and-so and then I've chased them again. Them sort of things would be quite useful, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, maybe the training is that you tell the client this is for big important notes like on stop or something, like this is a, you know, right in their face sort of things, and knowing that that goes to whatever API that you connect to do. So for us, it's our practice management solution. It goes back and forth too, so we can kind of, you know, PYE scheme got rejected or something important for us to know, or client on stop, whatever it's going to be. Whereas here, yeah, we can use that as a bit more of a debt collector sort of idea. Go from there. Charlie, what's your opinion on this one?
Yeah, I know, I like it. I mean, they should probably give different names to the, you know, sort of main notes and timestamps, because the ones at the bottom are timestamps, the main one's not timestamped. I'm always a fan of, if you've got multiple things, give them different names, even if they're just subtly different, so you know what you're referring to. I like Amy's idea of using it for debt collection. I mean, for a long time, I've thought that QuickBooks could and should add a very, very, very basic debt collection facility where you could run the debtors report, age debtors reports, but bring some of these notes in, so that when you run off a report for the client, you can say, okay, here's your age debtors and here's the comments on the same report. You know, especially if you're sending it to people within the client, let's say it's the CEO who never logs into QuickBooks, you're sending them a PDF report. Here's the notes on what's happened. You know, rang Mary on the 5th, it'll get paid on the 10th or whatever. Yeah,
that's a good idea. And I've not seen it, but I don't think these do relate to the reporting area yet. But yeah, that'd be a great idea if they could.
No, they don't. No.
Simon, what's your opinions on it?
I agree with what everyone else has said. It makes perfect sense. But I think the next stage is link it to, like I said, if you're chasing transactions, if you're using that as, I think people are going to use that as debt chasing, link it back to the transaction.
Glad you said that, because our next update segue is the new task option from the new button here. So the idea here is tasks themselves now have the option to link to different areas. So in this case, I'm linking to my customer, to Adam Spencer, and then I can create a task based on that. But the whole idea of task going forward is they want it to be more linkable to transactions. And I hope, like you said there, Simon, that it also gives you the option to link it to things like notes and stuff as well. That'd be kind of the idea going forward, wouldn't it? So yeah, seems like the UI is absolutely there. You know, the fact that we now have this new button here, we can do all of these options, means that you can really, you've got your recurring transactions, you've got your projects, you've got your customer details, you've got statements, all nicely laid up. And now you've got this opportunity to go in and use the task area from here. So go for it. Simon, what do you think? Tasks being linked to more things, it's got to be a good thing, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think the step that I was going to add was being able to put customers on hold. That needs to be in there, right? You're going to start doing these like notes around debt chasing, which I think is what most people are going to use it for. You know, to put people on hold is the next step, right?
They have a functionality like that in the US where you can put categories to customers, so you can create a category, and you could have a category of on hold, right? So in the US they kind of have that feature, and I can't imagine that'll be a difficult one to bring over. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think that's a really good use case for that one. Charlie, what do you think to the new task area?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really, really useful. All these sort of extra powerful features, because this is in everything, isn't it? It's not just in advanced. It's in
advanced only, isn't it? Sorry, I should have said.
Oh, is it advanced only? Oh, okay. Because I was
sorry.
I'm looking at an advanced file now as we're talking about it. That's why I wasn't sure. Yeah, I think it's a really, really good facility. The more of these kinds of facilities they can add, the better. I think this is showing a real improvement in the product and adding really useful functionality.
Yeah, at a time when we need to put advanced in its best format, right? Like we need to put the best foot forward for it. We need updates like this to make it through. They said at one point they think there's 50 odd updates to advanced at the moment. I actually think that's more the American version, which have way more updates than we have, right? But these nice little updates here is what we need to do that. And
the one thing I would add,
go for it.
Given that tasks is relatively new, and it's highlighted as new when you click it down there.
Well, it's new to be linked, but tasks.
Day one, but whether it would be useful, I don't know what you guys think, if it were alongside those other tabs, where you've got the notes in there, and so if you
I think they've designed it to be up here to be separate, just so, because if you have a task that's assigned to you, you'll get a notification up there, while we don't get notifications here.
Yes.
We've got tasks there, haven't we? But Yeah, the idea is that tasks is here so that you can be notified that the task has been assigned to you and complete that. And for certain clients, like this is a lifesaver, right? Because they can set up the playbook so that when you add on when you onboard a new client, it generates tasks and stuff like this. And we'll come on to it in a moment of the new updates to the workflow automation area. But that's where that's about, isn't it? You bring a new when new client starts, create these tasks, tick those tasks off, and everyone's going to be happy. Things like, in our world, it's make sure that Go Cardless has been requested and make sure Go Cardless then gets put on and stuff like that. Amy, what's your feeling to the update to the world of tasks?
Yeah, so I've obviously got advanced for the practice and I didn't know it was there. So that will be good. I have one client on advanced, which I had to move them on a couple of weeks ago. It might be handy for them. Again, like all these things, it would be great if it was lower down as well, but I understand why you've got to put it in advance, and it's a good persuasion to get people to take advance.
Yeah, I mean, these things trickle down, right? We never did properly cover it, but the tags feature, the cool thing about the tags feature, or the only bit that's really worth positive going forward, is that it seems like the custom fields we're getting is that drop down box. So if you actually play around with the custom field and the tag migration tool and everything else, if you try and migrate some tags from one to another, you'll notice that every client now, every file, should I say, has the drop down box for custom fields. So that's a good thing, right? That's one of the features that was exclusive to Advanced now start to trickle down to the others. So yeah, good to see. Right, another update to Advanced. So yeah, I should have been more clear about that.
There's lots of things they could do in the customer screen that competitors have at their just base level that this doesn't have. So I think it needs more little things as well, isn't there?
It's quality of life, isn't it?
And little things like that all build it. I think this is all built into that credit control piece with the notes and etc. But it's got to have your credit limit in there and put it on hold if they reach it and stuff like that, hasn't it?
Which unfortunately was part and parcel of the desktop version, right? And that's we're still waiting for feature parity for them to come back. So yeah, I wonder with their integration with MailChimp how much that side of thing will also be involved. At some point we're going to have much more deeper integration with MailChimp in here as well. So I wonder if that those sorts of things will come along with that as well. But we shall see. So yeah, QuickBooks Advanced, other updates to say that's come along for it. We now have forecasting. It's not actually, it's easy to go down to here, isn't it? So we've had budgets for a long time. And we did actually play around with forecast in the US product in a episode not long ago, but now we have it in the UK to play around with. I was confused why this one took as long as it did to come along, if I'm completely honest, because it's got no VAT elements to it or anything. You'd have thought this would be a nice, quick and easy fast follow, as they call it, isn't it, of moving things over. 100% get when VAT is involved. It's going to take a while, right? We have to sit and wait. Things like forecasts and stuff, it would have been nice to have this, rolled out quicker to us, but it's here now. The idea of forecast is a bit of a what if scenario, right? It's similar to budgets as you're kind of looking forward, but the idea is that you can say, well, what's going to happen if my income increases by 20% because MTD services are about to be activated, and what's going to happen there, and how much budget will I have to maybe get a new head count in to look after these new MTD clients, that sort of stuff. So yeah, it does what it says on the tin. Very bare bones at the point in time. We'll see if we get any kind of additions to it or anything later down the line. But for now, it is the opportunity for us to kind of go in there and play with forecasts. Charlie, I'm going to pick on you first. What do you think to forecasts within now?
First time I saw this was very recently. I've used budgets, which are great. I'm still yet to sort of see exactly how this works, because none of my clients, for example, would have a forecast that was based on, if it went up by X%. Most of them, if we were doing a forecast, it would be much more granular. It would be looking at different headings and for example, if on the cost side of things, they're doing pay rises at the beginning of the year. Okay, we know what the pay rises are for for all of the staff, the total per month is X. Let's put that specific figure in and adjust the forecast in the middle of the year based on what we previously had as a budget and compared to actual. So you're sort of comparing. We're not really comparing budgets to forecasts, but one of the reports I like to look at is budgets versus actuals for year to date, and then forecast versus budget for rest of year. So that you're always comparing to the original budget, either against actual or against what you now think the rest of the year will be. And that's kind of where I would use a forecast.
Yeah. I mean, they do have the option to make it into a budget from here. So I think it's supposed to be the idea, isn't it, that when you do a budget, you normally stick to a budget and you don't normally change budgets. That's the point of it, isn't it? Right? You've set your budget and forecast. You can, be more fluid with it, add to it, change it, them sort of things. And, again, it's that what if scenarios that come with it. Amy, do you want to go next? What do you think to the forecasting tool within QuickBooks Advanced?
I love it. I'm playing around with it for our own practice. I have been using another software for this. So actually having a look at this to see how it's going to work. And I do like to make this a budget as well, so we can do those reports. And actually, I do think this is quite a nice little selling point to get those people up to advanced as well. Yeah. So I think I'll probably be using it a lot more with my clients and talking to them about it more. Once I've got my head around how it works and how I can adjust and how granular I can go with my own practice, then I'll be mentioning it to clients and see if they want to upgrade.
We don't have it yet, but we do have the option to export to Excel. But I think when we can link this to Excel, that'll be a winner, right? Because then, like you said there, you have the opportunity to really get into the weeds of it and go through from there. Simon, what do you think?
It's a good starting point. I think it's something that you'd expect to be in advanced. I think there is still, it's not going to be like a fluidly Fathom, etc., etc. It's not yet in as detailed. The rules there are quite basic. They said it's not particularly granular. You can't say, oh, you want to increase this one code by 2% and decrease this one, which is going to be, as everyone said, that's probably what you're going to do rather than do it wholesale across all your sales codes. The lack of reporting is a bit, there's no reports. You can't do actual versus forecast or forecast versus budget. That's kind of like what you'd expect there to be as well. If they're going to, you can't keep coming in here and go, oh, right now, say to Excel, and they're not going to run my P&L and make sure they agree. That it needs some reports behind it.
100%. Yeah.
It's a good starting point. I think there's lots to be built on.
Yeah, and I think they've openly said, haven't they, they're never going to look to replace your Fathomlys and all those other ones. And we get that. We're 100% like we're behind that. But you're right.
Are you?
Yeah,
I'm not sure I am 100% with you on that, because the power of the spreadsheet sync is that you can do all that. And I don't know, I haven't tested, maybe you guys know, whether you can bring into the spreadsheet sync, through the spreadsheet sync, whether you can bring forecast, you can bring budget figures, you can obviously bring actual figures. So that I would hope they would add that into there, so then you could run because then you do have the sort of power that you could do in those third-party tools. The spreadsheet sync is incredibly powerful, a really useful tool.
I like spreadsheet sync for some, but it's still Excel. Like we spent 10 years or even longer trying to get away from using Excel. We've ended up back at using Excel.
Yeah, except that once you've written it, you don't need to do anything. It's fully automated after that. That's what's so nice about it. Is so you can design the report to look how you like. You can spend hours if you want making it look pretty, do whatever you want, and then you've written it. It's everything in there is a formula, and then you just all you do is run it, and that's what I like about it.
I think for me, like the reason I'm saying that I'm not happy, but I understand why they don't want to go against and completely, because they've been doing it for years, right? Like they've been adding and multi-entity accounting is their speciality, and saving for VAT figures and accounting VAT and taxes and stuff like that. That's what they excel at, right? The third party wants to do, and I'd love that to be in this product, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think that's their end goal, right?
That's the enterprise thing.
You reckon that's where that'll come in, or it has to, right?
That's where that's where multi-entity and all that sort of stuff is gonna, that one environment, multi-entity is going to be enterprise, right?
Yeah, which is a shame, right? Because I feel enterprise definitely has its place, but I do think that for some of our smaller clients, it just will never be an enterprise. Multi-entity is still a pain point for them.
Yeah, agreed.
Office is a group. We have multi-entity issues, right? And we've done many a workaround and Excel spreadsheets, thinking all this sort of stuff. But it would have been nice if we could have just had it all in product if needed. All right then. So that is go for it. Someone say something, or did I hear feedback? No, cool. I lost my mouse. Where's my mouse gone? Talk between yourselves. I lost my. Oh, there it is. Nope.
Run under the skirting board.
My mouse is literally broken. I'm so confused. Right. So next one is. Oh, it's back now. Next one is revenue recognition. Had a bit of a glow up, which we like to see. Under your. Yes, we love you. So under your whereabouts is it's under advanced accounting, we now have revenue recognition there, and it's had some extra bits added to it. Sam, you'll probably tell me more if I've missed anything, but there is now the opportunity to recognize now. So if you are looking to bring them in, you can also amend these now where you couldn't amend them before, which is nice to see. And you get some reporting options in the top here. So now you can see a report, shows you what revenue recognition is going to be accounted for going forward. So, especially at that end of year, I'm sure #Audit Amy is very happy to see this report here. Because now you've actually got something that you can see what is actually included in that deferred income area and put it through from there. So, this is good to see, right? It is, a pain point that's there. I still haven't made this, or revenue recognition still doesn't fit exactly for certain clients of mine, where we still have to do manual workarounds, we still have to do journal entries, etc. But I think that's just because they're more complicated maybe than your typical one. They want to see it in reports and things like that, where revenue recognition, in the projects area, where revenue recognition doesn't apply until it's done, and there's kind of various reasons for it. But I believe that for most clients who need revenue recognition, this is a good step. Who wants to go first? Go on, Audit Amy. I mean, look, the fact you've got a nice report to put on your audit file, you're happy, right?
Yeah, I love a report. It's definitely a step in the right direction. I am seeing clients are still doing it outside though. Not many people are taking it up. Maybe I need to persuade them to dive in and see what happens. But yeah, it's predominantly most audit clients are still doing it by journal and in Excel. So it's good to see it's being developed a bit further. Perhaps I can persuade some to have a go and see if we can make their life a bit easier.
Yeah, 100%. I think, the fact that we now have access to QuickBooks Advanced in our practice, you'd have thought as accountants, we've got loads of reasons why we could use revenue recognition, right? There's loads of opportunities for us. But I feel it's difficult to kind of get us to get on board with using that as opposed to what we would normally do, just do a year-end adjustment, right? So, slap on the wrist for us, I suppose. Charlie, what's your opinion on it?
I love it. I've not really used it yet, but I've had a look at it. I've only got a couple of clients on Advanced, but I've got one client that I may move to Advanced soon, and this is one of the features that I think may swing it. To persuade the client to pay the extra bucks for it, because they have a number of. I mean, most of their income is fine and just sits, kind of as it's invoiced, but they have a number of very, very, very large invoices that go out each year at different times of the year. So the ability to have this thing automatically say, okay, this much falls in each quarter. They do quarterly management accounts. Yeah. This much, and most particularly, with the new rules coming in, is it from 2026, whenever the new accounting, 26, isn't it? Revenue recognition rules, all that stuff. But even before then, I mean, they do it for the management accounts anyway. This is very, very powerful. Well, two things that just occurred to me. Would this tool, whatever they're built in the background, would this be a good way that they could then add a potential way of doing prepayments and auto-reversing prepayments on expenses in the future? Because that would be great. I mean, I'm one of those people. One of the things I learned when I was training as an accountant 400 years ago, was when I create prepayments, I always reverse them out into the future at the time I create them to save. Otherwise, every month or every quarter, somebody's got to look at it anew. And they may be new to this client and they've got to work out what was originally done and then work it all out again. So I always set them all up from the beginning, which is quite a, it's quite a lot of work to have to do every time let's say you're, reversing out every month. That's 12 transactions and journals you've got to change every month. So to have this kind of feature on costs as well, I think would be great. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I believe that's the end goal with it. My only pushback would be at the moment, they're not very good at doing historical adjustments. So it is very much a case of if you found it in the right month. So if you paid that insurance in that month and then you're ready to do the prepayment going forward, I think I
would just throw into that, if the powers that be in Silicon Valley are listening. I mean, I started off on QuickBooks Desktop, and if in the middle of the year you set up, if in June, if your year runs on the calendar year, and in June you set up a transaction to start in January, all you had to do was close your QuickBooks file, open it up again. This is on the desktop, and boom, it would say to you, you've got 6 recurring transactions to be entered. Do you want to accept them? And you go, yes, please, and then they're all done. I would love to see that in QBO, and I cannot see why it can't be done. I mean, it doesn't seem to be a problem to me.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Little things like director salaries, right? Like we could just quickly your director salary and recurring and stuff like that. But yeah, Simon, what's your? Because I imagine you probably use it more than anyone, or we're trying to push it onto your clients more than anyone else. What do you think to it? Is it hitting your
expectations? It's getting there. There's still little bits that need tweaking to it. Like the fact you have to save an invoice before you can see the recognition schedule is a bit annoying. You want to be able to see that before you hit the save button. And I've just been testing the daily interval, which is one of the new ones.
Oh, it's daily there now. I didn't see that.
Daily is there now. Well, when you create the new, if you do a new schedule, you can prorate by days, but you need to create. That's the other thing, to be able to. Obviously, you can have your one product, but you might want to defer it over different assigned products to different deferral schemes, so to speak.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It doesn't know which one you're using. So if you were to create a new template, but your product is assigned to both, it doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah. How are you getting dailies then? I've not seen the daily one, but that could just be me just not looking into it properly. But okay, cool. That's something I'll play later.
That's the other thing. But yeah, I think we've talked about. I was going to say to Charlie, we talked about how that's the prerequisite for prepayments about a year ago, I think, because it makes perfect sense. It's just the other way around.
Yeah.
But then it's a case which I think the building on then is which nominal codes can you assign prepayments to, as in which expense codes would you be can you post expense items to? That makes sense.
100%.
Then then it won't appear on every single. You don't want to create a product or a service for every single expense, right? You need to do it by nominal category.
That's true. Kirsty says, "Oh, Charlie, I love that. Yes, I remember the recurring items waiting to be done. Frustrating that you can't start the min, the min and then the past. Yeah, exactly. And that's always been a workaround we've had to figure out, right? The only way I ever, do it is I do the import option and import journal entries. So we have a director salary, for example. We have a template, and we would just override that, and we would stick whatever the director salary in for that particular one. But not perfect, but it works, and goes through from there. Right. Next one is, let me try and find my thing again. Multi-condition approval. So now on the workflow options, if I was going to go to approvals and I look at the templates they give us now, we now have multi-condition approval. So you can now route bills to different approvers based on conditions. So I think that was one of the big, at the very beginning, was the big kind of, why is it not doing this? Why is it not doing that? I still wish there was no way that you could do it based on, if you sell a particular product, then do X, Y, Z. Because I think that's where, for me, the use case would be really nice, just as accounting practice. If I sell a QuickBooks license, then prompt me to put the code in, or to assign it, or whatever it needs to be done from there. So, but yeah, we're not going to spend too much long on this one. Any kind of thoughts or anything? Any feedback on the approvals? Is anyone actually using it in their practice or anything? Any kind of ideas and stuff they can give out to people?
We looked at it, and then because I don't know if I fixed it, I need to double check. If you use a third-party tool for your receipt capture, it bypasses all of this anyway.
Yeah. And if you could use Go Cardless, you can't use approvals on that either because it won't collect the money because it goes, "You not approved this."
So I think that's something that they need to like fix. If you have got third parties that you're integrating in, they need to come into these potentially into these approvals as well.
Yeah, and that'll open up so much more, because the big one for me would be if you create a new customer, send the Go Cardless link to them automatically. That's what you kind of want, isn't it? So yeah, I think third party support would be amazing.
So what happens here, because I've not used this, if you're using the bill approval process, what happens to a bill when you first create it before it's been approved?
It sits there as unapproved, and you get like a little status at the top until someone goes in and approves it, and then you can kind of use it from there.
But prior to approval, does it hit the books, or is it like a sales order or purchase order? It just sort of, it's not in the books.
That's a very good question. I think it's in there. Yeah.
Until it's posted, it's in the ether.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice idea. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I think as accountants we need to use it more, right? And I think now that we have access to it.
Yeah, that's one area that, with the size of clients that we deal with, that they always want. Like, they might have someone doing the processing, especially for like audit clients. Like, we might process it, but it's down, or they might process it, then it's the person who's in charge needs to make the decision of where to post it. We can't make that decision for them, so they have the final say. Then they hit approve, and it's them making that decision. So it's little things like that. That we're seeing lots of people come to us with those like, well, we want approvals, or they're so manual. It's like, I've got 55 emails going back and forwards and they just get lost.
I think the biggest loss they've got with it as well is it's not really connected to the mobile app. If the approval went straight to the mobile app, I think they'd get a much bigger uptake on it, right? Because at the moment it is an email that comes to you, then you have to sign into QuickBooks to then approve it and go through from there and everything else. So I think if they can find a way to have that, close that loop of making it so you can approve it a lot easier, I imagine the mobile app's probably the best way of doing that. I think you'll get a bigger take up on it from there. And then is this final? No, two more pieces to go. Fixed assets. Fixed assets have had an update. You can now add an asset and save as draft. I believe that was the update. I believe that's come there. Yeah, so we now have the opportunity to save as draft going forward. So thoughts, questions, points?
It's not the update we were after. What's the saying? This is not the choice we're looking for. That's the update we want. We need reducing balance, don't we?
Yeah. And, please make it so it looks at the actual general ledger as well. And we've got, a way to make sure that this agrees to what's actually in the ledger. And, if we really want to impress us, and give us the opportunity that if we post the general ledger, it automatically appears in here in one way or another. That's the workflow that we kind of need from here. Any points that want to bring up about the fixed asset register, and then now you can save as draft?
I'm not actually...
Simon's... Oh, sorry, Amy. Go on.
I'm just saying I'm not actually using it because I've only got advanced for my practice and I've just moved someone onto it. So I'm not actually using it. When it filters down, I will be using it.
Is that public knowledge? No, it is. They announced that at QuickBooks Connect, didn't they? So that's good.
Well, it was a prompt. Sorry, Charlie.
No, I was just going to say, to Simon's point about reducing balance. I mean, the fact that it's got a drop down for depreciation method, but there's only one method in there.
I think that's America, isn't it?
And then forgot to implement it, which is bizarre.
Yeah, America has it though, don't they? They have a more options over there that we don't use. So I think that's
interesting. This bit's interesting. I prefer this bit's more interesting than the save as draft. This adds multiple assets and as non-depreciable, so you could still technically put all your assets in, regardless if they're in your fixed assets or not.
Yes.
Things like mice and keyboards and serial numbers and all that sort of malarkey, you can track it in here as non-depreciating.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that, but I don't like the other bit.
And again, you can't historically post the depreciation, or can you now? Maybe you can. Maybe I'm misremembering that one. But yeah, that is in there. Final update, and I just need someone to tell me what is this going to do. Under advanced now, you have an option for a personal cloud backup company data to a personal online storage account.
Yeah.
Backup data using CSV format and keep all original attachments. You link your Google Drive and it does nothing. I think it's, just not been fully implemented yet. Remember, as an advanced user, we have the backup company. I know that's a different thing, where that is a backup state that you can restore back to. And I believe this new one is very similar to this option we had here, which was export data. So I believe it's just basically doing this for you on an automated basis. So you've got backups of it.
But with the attachments.
With attachments, I suppose the big update.
Because that's the big thing, and not that that's one of the big things we find if we're migrating. Not that you use it for this, but when you're migrating from X system to X system, quite a lot of people I want to export all my data, and all of my data means attachments, and that's the one area that's a real issue with getting.
Because this never did it? It never gave you that option.
No one's does it.
Didn't they add something here? Well, yeah, batch actions and export there. So there was this way of doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a workaround, isn't it? So maybe you're right. Maybe that's what it is. But I can't get that to actually work. And yeah, I don't know. I was surprised to see it. Like, I didn't quite understand. I know they've got this big thing about connecting Google Drive at the moment, and we've seen that happening a few times, where you can now upload via Google Drive, and you can for your documents, and when you go to import now, you've got the option. We spoke about a couple of days ago about, we've also can upload from Google Drive from here. So they've got it, and I think there was a report about, or a PR blog that was posted about, they've got this new Google integration that's coming through, and they've definitely doing a lot of work with Google and everything else that goes with it. I can kind of see why it's, it was maybe a quick little add-on they've put there. I'm just not 100% sure what are we selling here? Like, what's the feature? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, what's that doing? I don't understand.
Yeah. Really. Strange one. Amy, Charlie, any update on, or talk about that one?
When I saw that, I just thought that was, I'd forgotten that the backup in advanced was elsewhere, so I assumed it was that. So if it's not doing the same thing as the full company backup, then yeah, I like you. I've got no idea what this is. I mean, why is it? They need, I think, in more places, some places within QuickBooks, there's a little blue link at the top of the screen that says more information on here, and a little thing pops out from the right. All of these things should have a little link that explain what they are, in my opinion. Every bit within QuickBooks for you, because then people would use the facilities more. If every single thing, even the stuff that's been there for years, if there was a little link you could click, people would use them much more.
100%. And I think with this as well, it probably because it's just not activated. I probably found it too soon before it was supposed to be there, whatever. But it's not appearing in my Google Drive, so I don't know. I can't even tell you what it's for. Anything you're in, Amy, or should we move on?
To each other in America.
Why is it your personal cloud? Why would it go to a person? Like, I don't want that in my personal one.
I don't know.
Fill it up.
I have my Bofix domain in here, so it is.
Oh, you didn't use a personal one.
But my point is, that's in your company settings, right? Not in your personal Intuit account. So anyone with the right user rights could link their own personal Google account to it.
For reasons I don't know. We don't know.
But there needs to be some security around that, right?
Yeah, you'd have thought so.
The user roles, hopefully.
Speaking of custom user roles, that is the end of our update on the UK model. In the US, though, custom role-based access to reports is coming. So that's a great bit of excitement there, isn't it? Because that gives us an opportunity to really lock down what reports your users can and can't see. So that'll be cool. We'll get to play with that one when that comes in. And we might as well roll this both into the same topic. But also in the US, they are bringing to the advanced one, they're bringing spreadsheet sync, but with Google Sheets. So me personally, I am very excited that I'm still one of the few people using JCOM, well, however you pronounce it, who I don't like to promote anymore after they threw me under a bus on a social post, but that's one for another story. But not needing to use them is a good thing, I think, in my opinion, as long as they can copy that same functionality. So we use it extensively, that GACOM product, because that automatically syncs in the background. We don't have to do anything. So we can run tasks and everything based on our actual sales and all that sort of stuff, which is really cool. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get the same sort of functionality over with that. So custom role-based access to reports and spreadsheet syncs with Google Sheets. Anyone want to have any feedback on those two?
Yes, to the reports.
I'll throw something in. So I had a demonstration yesterday or the day. Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Was I talking over anyway? I had a demonstration a couple of days ago looking at the granularity of user permissions, which is greatly expanding in advanced. So it's getting to the stage, they're moving to the stage where pretty much every type of thing you do, you've got the ability to decide whether people can create, edit, or view, or delete. I think there's 4 options for each type of thing, and then you can create a role that so you go through and create a role that has exactly the types of permissions you want, and then each new member of staff, you can say, okay, I'm going to assign this. You don't have to go through for each person. You can say that role that I've created applies to these 3 people, and a different role applies to those people. That's going to be great, because I've for decades argued for much more granularity. So that will be very, very powerful.
I've seen that, but forgive me if they've updated it since, but they still don't do it on a bank by bank basis. They do, then that's the one we're waiting for.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, they don't do it bank by bank.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, one of the things I wanted, for example, is the ability to give somebody permission to do everything except see the bank. So I want them to be able to see all the reports, or drill down into every report except the bank. Yeah, but they can. I want them to be able to drill down into everything except the bank, because if they see the bank, then they can see, for example, individual salaries paid out to people.
Exactly.
Whereas within the salaries report, there's just one figure for global salaries, so they can drill down into that quite happily from the P&L without seeing anything confidential. But if they saw the bank, they'd know how much each person got paid, and that's something that they are moving in their roadmap for granularity.
Yeah,
but bank by bank, that you've mentioned that before. I don't know if that's in their roadmap.
Yeah, which is a shame, because that really is the thing, and it is for that salary issue. We recommend a lot of our clients have separate bank accounts to pay the salaries out of, and they just do, they just top up that account from time to time so people can't see how much people have been individually paid.
As they move into this mid-market space, right? They're key.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even like now, you said you couldn't do you can't do that yet. Like if I select I want sales invoices, I get everything. But what's interesting is other roles are linked back to sales invoices. So if you tick I want to do bank transactions, it makes you have access to all of the sales, including creating sales invoices and things like that. But they might not need that area. So they need to there's work to be done there. I think they're on the right path that way. It's just tweaking it as they go, I think.
100%. And then finally on updates, US QBOA, so your QuickBooks Online accountant area in the US, has role-based access permissions now. So it gives you the opportunity to decide what your team members can and can't do within a particular client. So I think that's a feature that's been asked for a long time. Hashtag Audit Amy, we're very happy about that one. And then split billing as well, which is something they've talked about for a while, but finally gone live. And I think it's getting more and more important for us in the UK to kind of get that one. The idea there is we don't have to take on both the payroll and the QuickBooks file, or the MailChimp, whatever it's going to be. We can decide what part of it we're going to pay for and what part the client's going to pay for as well, because payroll it changes so often, right? Like every time they add on a new employee and stuff like that, it get a bit frustrating from a admin point of view to keep on top of it. From a billing point of view, any comments on those two little updates? All good?
All good.
All good,
We'll
definitely.
wait for it to come to the UK and talk about it more. Quick positive bit from me is 0 if you are listening, and if you are, stop putting adverts in the front of my videos, please. We won't have that anymore. Now let's talk about the more controversial bit. And I want to start this part by saying that if any of us make any opinions of anything that are our own opinions, but each individual person in the little ring that's here, because this one can be a little bit controversial in terms of it. So if I was to say something, for example, then that is my opinion and not of any of the other 3 in the room. So let's give a bit of a breakdown of what we're talking about. We are talking about the new QuickBooks user limits. Basically, from the 3rd of June, they'll be rolling out new usage limits. They're actually already there if you actually buy a new product now. So if you go into a new product and buy it, you'll see these are already there, which is absolutely fine. We're happy with that. The limits are quite nice. We've got plus is a number of users of 5, advanced is 25, plus is chart of accounts 250, advanced is unlimited, plus is 40 class locations, and advanced is unlimited. And there is also limits available for essentials and simple start, but at the moment they aren't being affected by this big change. The big change is that if by the 3rd of June, you haven't got your client updated to the new version, or if you are a QuickBooks user and you haven't updated to whatever version you're in. So ultimately, if you are above 6 users, above 251 chart of accounts, or above 41 class and locations, then you will actually find yourself locked out of your account. And the only way to get back into your account is by talking to the team, and they will go and sort you out from there. So it isn't going to be a case of being able to just do it yourself. You can have to talk to the customers services, and they're going to do whatever magic free they're going to do to fix it from there. Have I missed anything? That is pretty much the update, right? That's coming through.
Yep.
Go for it.
I would say they were going to do this 2 years ago. I want to say. So it was going to happen, and it got delayed anyway.
Yeah,
for an indefinite period of time until now.
And at the moment, the essentials and simple start has been delayed, right?
Yeah, because it was going to be rolled out at the same time they rolled out in the US, and then they were, no, we're not going to do it in the UK now. So we've kind of known it was going to happen at some point, just didn't know when. Does it affect people? I mean, of our great big list, there's a few, but looking at them, I do wonder. Some of them are way over those limits, and I'm wondering, are you even on the right system altogether? It's prompted those conversations. I think in one way, it's a good thing to find out what are your, not what are you doing, I would say, what are your clients doing in there? If you're not doing the bookkeeping, or you don't see it till year end, or what have you, what are your customers doing in their QuickBooks accounting? I think one of mine had something like over 1,200 chart account codes.
Wow.
What are they doing?
And
it's prompted that conversation of what are you doing? Why are you doing that? What are the reasons behind it? Is there something we can help with to get this idea? And it turned out that they were, every time they did an event, they created a new nominal code. Rather than using
that granular level.
Or anything like that.
Or locations or classes or
And it turns out they only do like 30 projects a year or 30 events a year. They've just been built up year after year, and they've just never archived anything. So it was quite it's a therapeutic thing for them to go archive. But without knowing that, without the prompt to say, oh, by the way, you're near that limit, they were just carried on. And God knows how long their TV report was.
I can imagine. And I bet at some points probably didn't even load, because we know how sometimes it can be a bit temperamental, right? So Amy, Charlie, any bits you want to bring to this conversation?
Okay. I had an email about one client breaching, but it because a news account, and I went in and it was at 4, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on there. So it's a waiting game to see what will happen. I'm starting to, on my construction side, sorry, talking about it again, I'm starting to have employees put in to do time. And I want to use that for subcontractors as well. So that's going to add into the user account. So they're forced into advanced for no other reason. So if Is that right? Have I got that right?
I don't know. I don't think time ones are included.
Yeah.
I've got one that's got way over those
They're
numbers.
on the news account, so I was like, oh, maybe I've got that wrong, but I'd assumed it had because they're on there.
I'm going to find my list.
Read only definitely doesn't count, but
Yeah,
if
time
you're just
tracking.
on reports.
Yeah, I don't think time tracking was
Oh, I'm on,
counted towards your limits.
I'll tell you why, because I'm on an advanced file, so it wasn't going to tell me anyway. But if I went to a non-advanced file, it will tell me there. But I thought they were those two, wasn't it? Time tracking and read only were the two.
Yeah, none of my ones with time are on my Exceeder.
Yeah. Down there at the bottom, look. So
I didn't see that. Take it back. I'm cool. I'm happy.
users added to this role can add their own time, but then that's only timesheets. If you're using T-sheets, maybe that might be different.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking with the custom roles coming in, you might want your employees to do a bit more. So you might want them to do the tracking and a bit more, and you're kind of being restricted by that. Yeah, that's the only concern. I'm going for an exercise, checking out my clients, looking at who's close to it, and actually I'm picking out some that have old employees still on there. So it's more of a filtering exercise so they don't have to go up to advanced.
Yeah.
I think we've found that quite a lot of, before Charlie jumps in, is that people don't know how to add their accountants properly. Or even worse, add their auditors properly. And you find out rather than add the central account that gets dispersed to all of your users, they've added every single person in the list.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, just go to your auditors, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, look, my view, the three limits are the number of nominal accounts, the number of locations and classes, and the number of users. And capping the nominal accounts at 250 seems very reasonable to me. If you've got more than 250, again, as sort of Simon was saying with his client with 1,200, I don't think you've set up your chart of accounts right. If you really have got a chart of accounts that's got more than 250 nominal accounts in it, you've got to be a pretty damn big business, and you're going to be having a lot of accountants working within the business to be doing all the work on that stuff, and then advanced is absolutely appropriate for you.
Yeah, I agree.
I think capping classes and locations at 40, a bit low. I would have thought 100 or possibly 50, but 100, because again, if you might have a class for each event, again, to pick Simon's example, and you could easily have more than 30 events in a year. So I think that's a slight limit. The big thing for me, though, is the number of users. And if you've got more than 5 accounting users within a business, okay, I can see that they're moving up to advanced makes sense. But I've got clients where they simply give each person who works in the company, they've got maybe 7 staff, each person has the ability to raise a sales invoice. Some of those people raise one sales invoice every 2 years. So the idea that they've got to pay a whole lot more, my feedback to them was, well, what the client will say to me is, okay, then we won't give each user their own login. 3 of them will share a login. And then you lose the ability to track who's done what. But they save themselves 57, they sort of go from 47 a month up to 115. They're saving themselves a lot of money. So I would say that maybe they could look at capping users once if they got access to bank or to, more complex stuff. But if all they've got access to is sales, then that should not count as a billable user in the same way that time tracking and view reports isn't. That would be my feedback there, because I think that's not, these aren't big businesses. But I've also heard that they're moving to a turnover threshold anyway, rather than number of users. So as long as they set the turnover threshold sensibly, then maybe that's a better way of doing it.
Entirely. If that's the look, they can say, oh, we're going to base your subscription on your. You're saying they're going to base their subscription based on your turnover?
Well, I mean, the idea would be that you move from plus to advanced if turnover was above a certain level.
I'd imagine it'd be an additional criteria.
They're not charging multiple percentage of your turnover.
We've said enough time. That's the wrong metric to judge what needs advanced, because I can have a property client who sells 1 property a year in Mayfair, and that's what, 10 million quid.
Yeah.
Does that mean they have to be on advanced?
Yeah.
It's the wrong metric. It's the complexity. Yes. And I've banged on about it because that's what we do. It's complexity of transaction that whether you go to advanced or not. I think you're right around the users. I would have liked to see plus at 10. 10, and then the location and classes probably be on par with 0, which is 100 in each, before you then have to go up a stage. I think
40 much
40 across both isn't enough.
No.
I think.
But are you happy with 250 nominal accounts? That seems reasonable to me.
I think if, as you said, I think 250. If you've got chart accounts that's more than 250, either there's an issue. More likely there is an issue.
No, exactly. So that's not a problem. That limit. That's the one limit that we don't have a problem with.
But the people, I do see happening is people might get to 250 and never have used classes and locations before, right? They'll then start adding classes and locations to just push that a little bit further. So then they get 240, technically, and then they'll just try and push it a little bit further. I can see that happening. Or they'll just ditch classes and locations and might only have 100 chart of accounts and start using nominal codes for them instead. And that's an even bigger problem. People will find their ways to not upgrade. And they're all the hard ones to unpick going backwards.
Yeah. And I think from all this, I don't have an issue with the price. I don't have an issue with having limits in. Like, it's their product. They can put whatever limits they want in, right? And we accept it. And that's absolutely fine. I think the only bone of contention that I don't know if it's disappointment's the word, but I'm just shocked for is this whole aggressiveness of locking them out if they don't abide by the rules. Because there's loads of ways they could have done this in a much more sensible manner, right? And we don't have to get this bad publicity about it. But all we're doing now is we're just shocking awing them into either reducing down and using less of the product. And if like Simon's client there, they obviously love the product if they've got 1,000+ chart of accounts, right? They must be an advocate for the product, because why would you be that ingrained into it and putting all that effort into it if you didn't like it, right? And all you're really doing to people like that is saying, right, well, I know you like it, but if you're going to continue using it, you have to like it less or pay extra. You kind of putting that through. And I think it's that whole idea that they're literally locking people out is the bit that I just don't understand where that's come from. And that doesn't feel like, to me, the same Intuit QuickBooks that we know and love. It feels like someone else has made that decision, and that scares me.
How would you like them to do it? In order to
they could have a soft one, right? Like, you limit them to whatever number they're at. So imagine they're on 400, for example, and you can't add any more until you come back to 250, or you upgrade to advanced. Just because that's what happens in most services, right? If you're already above it before they introduce the update,
that's the way I would have gone about it.
Yeah,
so right there, fine. But if you try to add one, then
it's blocked out until you're back down to 250, right?
That's a very good suggestion. And also, if, for example, you were at 1,200, like Simon says, you don't just cap it at 1,200. So if you delete 20, you can add 20 back again. The 20 you've deleted, and you're now at 1,180. But you can't go to 1,181. You've still all you can do is delete until you're down below 250. That's actually a very good suggestion.
And then
if they're listening, that's I like it.
We've given this feedback, and
that would be a more sensible way. Like, and like, if they're 3 over, does it like?
Yeah.
Lots of other, when you get into that mid-market space, most of the time, if you're like a couple of over the month of your balance that month, they don't care. They're like, oh, cool. Is that going to continue on? No, fine. It's only 3. If it continues for next year, then we'll look at it. It's kind of, whereas this is very much a hard. I think they could look at that. Yeah, definitely.
Amy, you want to say something? Put your hand up.
I was going to say on the user accounts, so we have 6 on Plus, and they don't then get rid of that one person or move up. Does that mean I'm, as the accountant, not going to be able to see it either?
So as long as you're in the account, the question is, you may not be able to pay for their practice, and that's where we.
If they're paying for their own and they've got their own user account,
paying for it, you'd want to be a user and an accountant. So if you're just as the accountant, it's absolutely fine. You won't count towards their limit. But if you also pay for their license and you're a master admin, then you'll count towards their limit. And
well, you say that I again, a call I had yesterday. They're checking up for me. It's possible that the primary, either the primary admin or the primary admin, if they are also the accountant user with wholesale billing, will not count towards the 5. And they're finding out for me.
But that should have been before they announced this. That should have already been considered, already been put through. Then we don't have to have these questions and have to have the conversation. The other thing that has been completely missed is the fact we've now lost as accountants the ability to offer unlimited users. When did that disappear? Like that was a perk of being a QBO accountant and selling the services on their behalf. And we've now lost that. So
I've got 2 clients who are relatively small, but they're not small, but they're not certainly not big businesses. And one of them's got about 35 users, and the other one's got about 28. I mean, they're both connected companies, but and all they do is raise sales invoices. They've got a sales team around the country, and that's all they do. So they're going to have to move to advanced. Like there's no option.
Or you've got to find a third party for them to raise the sales invoice in, right? And then it APIs it over. Which not answer agree.
Aaron, stop.
You've gone Daleki.
Oh no, he's left us in charge, Charlie. And Amy's gone.
Oh wow, Amy's hung as well. Yeah.
Oh no, it's all going to go to pot now. But what? But you're right. Like,
are you, Aaron? You're still using dial-up internet?
unless the powers of beer are trying to stop me from talking any more about this subject, maybe.
Yeah. Google are on your case. But I mean,
in your modem.
Obviously we're quite lucky, and we get the thing from our account manager that says this is where you're exceeding. And quite a lot of them are on 5 users, and like I said, one of them will be us, or 5 or 6. There's a lot in that bracket.
Yeah.
So I think, as you said, the accountant user shouldn't be included in that. If people have added their accountants wrong, then that's on them, right? Or ex-employees, there's a whole issue there completely of if people aren't being removed from your system when they leave your business, that is a problem.
I mean, the accountant user, when they're in the accountant user section, the accounting firm set definitely doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
It's only because if you're doing the billing and you've been added as a prime, and you need to be a primary admin as well.
Because people add it to us because we don't sell it at RRP, right? They're going to get a kickback for get a kickback, but they save themselves. Yeah, it's not good, but they might save themselves 30-40 quid a year, right?
Yeah.
For a small business, that's 30-40 quid they can spend on something else.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take too much time on it, but just my final point for you, Charlie, is you've got that client who's on, did you say 28 or something? 30, whatever the number was.
30, yeah.
Yeah. So they've got to go down to at least 25. Even on advanced, they're not allowed further than 25. And you've obviously...
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And when they come back to me, I need to mention that because, limiting to 25 on that's the point I raised to them, is limiting to 25 on advanced seems even more insane. At least when you limit to 5, which is too low in my opinion, you have the opportunity to move up, albeit it's a big cost.
Yeah.
But to limit the entire product to only 25 users is basically saying we're not interested in you. Intuit is not interested in you until we launch, a much bigger product, which they're doing in the States and I guess may come here. But we're not interested in you at all as a customer, which is a mistake. That they need to allow more than 25 users.
What I'd be interested in is if I am on Plus, right, and I want to, and I am being forced to upgrade to Advanced. At the moment, I might be paying 47 quid a month, right?
Yeah.
For paying RRP. And it's going to go to £115, right? What? Why don't I just cancel my account and I can go and get Advanced for £28 a month?
Yeah.
And start from scratch.
It's only for 6 months, isn't it?
But that's saving you 500 and something quid over 6 months.
Yeah.
If
you've got that much complexity in your business, that's a lot of data to lose.
But they might not have that complexity. All they need is that HTML code.
Yeah.
That's quite. It's quite a big jump, and people, as I said, people will find ways around it.
Yeah, but the problem is the ways around it is normally going off platform, right? It is finding another solution and doing that. And, we should be celebrating QuickBooks Advanced, moving to QuickBooks Advanced should be, because it's got a cool feature that you really want to use.
That's what it should be. Yeah.
I think Aaron's solution is the most elegant and is the best. If you're above the limits right now, then fine. and you can't add any more until you drop down below the new limits. I think that's a very, very good solution.
And buying new ones fine, because everyone knows what it is. When you buy a new product and they're the limits, you live with them. I think it's the fact they've introduced it midway, and all they're doing is upsetting people. There's no plus from here. If like for me, I would love to have more clients on advanced, but the advanced product just isn't there yet. It's a few bells and whistles away from being something that I know I can really sell. And at the moment, being forced to sell it just doesn't seem right, in my opinion. So quickly on some comments that we had. Kirsty said, question about the time. A client mentioned that there's a new view and asked him if taxable.
Sorry, stupid sales tax column, is it?
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm just that really annoying column that we keep seeing, and we're like, why is it there?
I'll have to look into that one.
Someone's pressed the wrong button in the US, haven't they?
Yeah, that possibly is it, actually. And then Michelle K says, hi, Aaron. I saw your update before on the users, etc. I work with a small charity and an essential package at the moment. It appears that standard no access users are showing as billable. Any thoughts? So, so all you need to do to get rid of those, ones, is make sure they're read only. So when you go to your users, if you use this view role descriptions, you'll see non-billable roles, and you want the view company report options there. They are the only ones that will be there. And for our charities that we have, we've already had the conversation with our clients, and most of them are more than happy to just use the view company reports one. That is an easy workaround. They have Intuit have said that they acknowledge that this is an issue for them in terms of charities and stuff, and they're all kind of charities are forced to have many users and stuff because of compliance and everything else. So fingers crossed there's an opportunity for them to find a solution for charities going forward. But I think for the rest of us, not a problem. And that's it. I could talk about this topic all day, but I know that's just going to get me into trouble, and I'm already in enough trouble, so it's probably better we don't. Quick public service announcement though, for just so people are aware, if you are on QuickBooks Standard or Core, Amy, which one is it again?
If you're on QuickBooks Standard and you want to move to Core, you might have had an email to say that you are unable to move to Core. Please don't ignore it. Do something with it.
Because you have to go to QuickBooks Advanced Payroll.
Advanced, that's QuickBooks Standard and Core Payroll, just for people who don't know what we're talking about.
It's that way around, isn't it? I always get those mixed up.
It's worth. We only do Advanced Payroll. It is much better.
Yeah,
but whatever price it is, it's a million times better, right?
Yeah, it's not the price that the issue with this one. I think you get value for money. I think it is a good product, but I think not being told about it is a bit of an issue for us bill payers. So as bill payers as well, if you're paying for your clients, just be aware that they might have to go through this rigmarole. And it is a completely different product. So you're going to have to learn how to use it and everything else. But like Simon says, there is so much benefits there. You can automate stuff. You can put holidays in there. It is a really nice product. But yeah, and we don't know what the reason is for that forced upgrade, which is slightly frustrating because it'd be nice to know why you can't move from one to another. Go from that anytime, Michelle, anytime. Right, apologies for going on a little bit longer. We will make sure we're back here as soon as we can for our next update. Hopefully, fingers crossed, talk about the new banking area, because oh boy, that is a good little update there. And I'd love to, as well, to be able to talk about Intuit Assist again, but we'll see if those embargoes and everything else has been lifted by then. But before we go, Simon, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. And at Accountex, I guess, is that in person. If you're to stalk me down,
you've got no chance of seeing him.
No, I might be there on a bike. You never know, but that'd be the best place to find me.
I love that. Make sure you get to Accountex. #Audit Amy. Where can they find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, and also have a podcast, Being Counted a Boss, coming. Well, season 2 coming soon.
Have you found a recording location yet?
No, we need to have a chat.
Okay. Charlie, where can they find you?
I guess you can find me on LinkedIn as well, like everybody else. And I have a Facebook group for QuickBooks Pro Advisors. Go to Facebook and look for QBOA User Group and come and join us.
Love that. Well, thank you everyone for listening to a slightly rambled episode of QuickBooks Labs. We have just gone through all those new announcements, and there've been some good ones, right? So we're in a good place in terms of new features coming through. So it's all positive, and I'm sure it will rumble on and on about the users updates and all that comes forward. But my name's been Patrick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next month, maybe sometime around then. Maybe if we're all going to Accountex, we'll do another in-person one, because I know we've got some really good positive feedback from there, and we'll have the podcast studio in Accountex, so it probably would not to do it. My name's Patrick. I had my wonderful guest with me, or co-host with me, and we'll see you next month. Bye for now.
See ya.